You want to make money on MMA? LaTB. You want to know who to put it in your parlay? LaTB. You want to know our DraftKings stay away? LaTB. So, who has the Leslie Smith underdog pick? Who was the Mexican dude and the lesbian chick? Everybody say you mean Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that out there living they dream? Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that still smoking all the green? Lesbo and the Bean. Come on y'all, let me hear you scream. Lesbo and the Bean.
Welcome back to the show. We got props all over the place. We got stuff going down. How has the last few days been? We had a recap of the last show, and actually, as of late, we don't have a UFC. So we're going to come at you with some MMA info and shoot the breeze a little bit. Maybe give you some advice on how to take your lady out. And don't even let her know it's not fight weekend. You just say...
Don't tell her it's not fight weekend.
Don't say that. Just say... girl, let's just go to the beach. Let's go have some dinner on Saturday night.
You're more important to me than the fights tonight, babe. And then you do that because you're all building brownie points for UFC 223. And you know what? The next fight card, even though I'm not going to miss it, you're not going to miss it. But if you had to miss that one to get 223 to be left alone, I think UFC 223 is out of control. It's all I can think about.
Agreed. And we have cards before that where we're going to have to do a lot of research.
I look like I'm a stalker over here.
Looking at the ship.
Looking at
show
the Chanko.
Show the YouTubers. So if you haven't been listening to us on YouTube, now that we're bringing video quality to you guys, you can like and subscribe, hit that little bell reminder. Or if you're just still podcasting with us.
Super creepy. That was just my creepiest moment of the week. Sorry, Bullet.
Brought to you by Lesbo and the Bean. Remember to subscribe on your podcast services. So,
yeah, usually sometimes we call these shows when we don't know, we'll call them like Jambalaya or Tex-Mex, or this might just be some bullshit. We just might be bullshitting.
Right.
A little bit UFC bullshitting.
A little bit of free advice on how to get your love life straight here at Lesbo and the Bean. Accentuating that bean. So, MMA stuff. We've had so much going as of late. We have up-and-comers getting fights with Ortega, changing of the guard. The 26th division has been nonstop MMA guys. There's young prospects coming in that are looking flashy as hell. We're getting rid of older dogs, and it's a really tumultuous time in the UFC right now. I got to just have a little shout out to my girl, Leslie Smith. She's pushing hard for that UFC unionized contract. And even though she may have some flaws that John Finch himself is specifically against, I don't think that it's a bad thing what she's doing regardless. The attention for the need of regulation for these fighters to benefit much more. When I retweet all of the payouts and earned, and when you see a guy getting $12,000 and 12 to win for being in a contender of the year, fight of the night contender, which means you're in a fucking dogfight.
And this is where I feel like people that don't have the common sense just of life don't understand. They're like, $24,000 for a fight? I'd love that. Okay. Now it takes you 3 months to train for that fight. You got to pay all your trainers. You have to have all the food, which is expensive, and all the proper care that you might need afterward, the massages, the doctors, all the stuff. Now you get this amount that gets taxed. You don't even get to bring home all that money. So all in all, to me it is, even if you make an okay living, let's say you're an American, you make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. In my opinion, if somebody's willing to get into the ring 3 times in that same year that I just go to my job or you go to your job, and not to take away importance, but they might not be able to do their job at any 1 minute in that octagon. They'll never be able to do their job again. That has to be, they have to be financially, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for it. They compensated. They have to be financially compensated for what their bodies have to go through.
For the risk.
Yes, and they have a team that they're paying to make what the final product is.
The military does it. When you go over to a hazardous place for your health, you get hazard pay. You can look that up. You get an extra couple dollars. Same with these UFC fighters. They should be getting what they're paid on top of insurance or 401ks or universal health coverage for them for after their fight careers, because any one of these minutes, maybe it's not a brain injury, it could be a finger though, and you can never use that finger right again. And it causes you pain.
We all think they're private contractors, yet they treat them like employees. It's bullshit. But the number one bullshit thing, if I'm an athlete and I'm this...
Number one bullshit.
I know. This is number one bullshit. If I'm an athlete and I'm paid to wear Reebok on my clothes, then Reebok better be paying me every fight, win or lose, and besides of the money the UFC is paying me, I am now Reebok sponsoring me. If I have to have that here and then out of the octagon, now I can't have any other shit on. That's how the new contracts are getting tighter and tighter.
Right. We were going over it.
This is crazy. Monster. It's like, even if they want to have, like, they keep their normal sponsors that they have, those sponsors, if the UFC is allowed to litter their mat with sponsorship, the fighters should be able to do the same thing with their clothing. But right. I feel like most of the true fans, like I would say 85% feel this way.
Yeah, I'd agree. So what do we got to do? Because we can't boycott the UFC, because then they'll go away, and I don't want to see the UFC go away. Even if they're getting fucked as fighters, I still am watching every single time.
This is, I guess, our question to Leslie Smith. What can the fans do to help you guys out? What can we do more? I mean, just a podcast, but what could we actually do as fans? Could we write a letter? Who do we write it to? Where do we send it? We need more information.
Right, or specific,
it's not our
congressman.
Congressman. Yeah, it has to be a commission or it has to be the UFC. I feel like it's up to them for the fighters' pay.
But it's still one of those things where I feel like if we still get 10,000 signatures, let's say, and go up to UFC Dana White, hand those over, he can be like, oh, nice signatures. I don't give a fuck. Like, he can eat, they're a private company that does what they want and has been able to use legal statutes and proper wording to get the benefit most for themselves. They are an entity that's for profit.
It's just crazy. Every other organization that works, I mean, if you take friggin' from Major League Baseball to Broadway, any other thing, when you get to the height and level and fame of some of these people, and if you look at the famous people that respect the shit out of these people, and if people really knew how little they were getting paid, I think people would be horrified. Once, what the bring home is, if they boiled it down to a weekly bring home, you would be like, whoa, that's not fair. Sarah McMahon, let's say she's bringing home $625 a week. Do I think that's okay? Not that it's not a good living, but that this person, and I'm not even saying that's what she makes. I just use her as an example. I just thought of like a single mom taking care of her shit and like what she needs to get by and how much time she's away from her family to train. I don't know. Something has to be done. That's why we love you, Leslie Smith. That
is why we love you. And LaTB Legion, if you have a better idea, throw it up on a comments board somewhere.
Yeah, we're ready for a new name.
Yeah. We're interested to see what other propositions are out there.
Yeah.
So, other MMA stuff that's been going on. We did have that fun ass fight card this last weekend.
I have to tell you mine before we talk about that. My big news that I thought was, this is so girly. Mike Perry and his girlfriend broke up.
Oh, I did see that. Very interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, what happened?
So I saw her specific tweet or Instagram, whatever it was, that she really specifically believes in God. And Mike Perry has a wandering eye. And nothing physical had happened, but it's something they had talked about for a while. And what I wanted to ask you is, we were saying not long ago how the family and bringing everyone together for your fight camp and surrounding it around you and your loved ones benefits some of these fighters. But here's a situation where it might not have, because if they had talked about this before and Mike Perry goes into Orlando with relationship issues in his corner, how's that not going to fuck with your head?
I don't think everyone should be necessarily in the corner. I think that has to be the good thing of a partner, is that, like, if I'm training my spouse to be a fighter, I know what I bring to her and what I add to her emotional side, but I know I'm not the best striking coach in the world, and I know I have no reason to open my mouth up in that 5 minutes in the corner, because they have this team that she shouldn't have been saying anything to him. Like, but then you take somebody else's spouse and everyone will say she's a dumb woman, but then you take Sam Alvey's wife.
Exactly what I was going to bring up, same night.
Who, she's actually
brilliant.
The game. And if you ever listen to her in the corner, every single time he walks out of the corner, you'll say, I agreed 100% with what she told him.
Yep.
She's really good with that corner info for a fighter, and he sees her when he's there. Like, I think that's a big part of it too, is like sometimes the exhaustion sets in and everyone just becomes like a wah, 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 wah. Sam sees her and listens to her, and that is a dream team. But Mike Perry's girl, I don't know. I don't even know how long they were together beforehand.
I don't think it was that long.
Yeah, I
don't
think he
it
was
that
Mike
long.
Perry before
And
the girl.
Mike Perry's about to go on a little bit of a nature walk, if you know what I'm
He's
saying.
gonna go sowing his wild oats.
Woo! So,
Well, he's a cute guy.
That's what I'm saying.
But I
He,
was
he,
looking-
he ain't hurting too bad.
I was looking at them thinking, what's she attracted to? Like, he's not great. I can't imagine sitting and having a real conversation.
Everyone said for initially was gold digger because he's about to get famous, and he ain't getting as famous now that he's losing fights, which is what I would think some people. But specifically in that tweet when she said she really believes in God, I feel my personal conspiracy theory is that she's way more religious than he is, and he specifically was out talking about how he doesn't necessarily believe in
Are
God
you thinking
anymore.
she's a virgin
No, not at all.
and they're waiting until marriage?
No,
I'm
not
just
at all.
kidding.
I'm just thinking that she believes in God, and
Can
he's...
you imagine if Mike Perry was with a woman that was like, I want to be celibate?
Some people
and
need to
know
be
it.
the straight and narrow. I could see how people get it.
But that Mike Perry's like, he's just waiting.
I can't wait
Waiting. Yeah,
for
he's
that.
waiting.
For The Bachelor, where it's like, when can we start having babies? I know. You got your boy watching The Bachelor. And then he dumps you for the other one after you've been sleeping with the brown-haired one. Of course. What guy wouldn't do that? What guy would not do that? Just throwing that out there.
Back to the Mike Perry. Mike Perry should be a bachelor. I would be
Yes.
so into that show.
I'd
Wouldn't that
I'd
be
watch
better
it.
UFC programming than looking for a fight? If we had like Mike Perry, Luke Rockhold, like a couple of these dudes do seasons of a bachelorette type show. I would be and they can use some women. There's some single women in the
I
fight
love
game.
the contender and looking for a fighter. I'm a fan. And embedded. Give me all that shit.
But all the dudes, they have no problem with their male audience. They need more woman viewership.
Yeah, true.
So I don't think the women, or they could do a like behind the scenes thing of Alan Joban and his cute wife, and they'd be like, oh, look at him, he's adorbs. Like, they watch The Real Housewives, they could watch The Real Housewives of UFC.
They sent Chuck Liddell to Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, Chuck Liddell, no one cares about him.
That's where you were telling me specifically you had a weekend with some gentlemen that knew what they were talking about UFC, and they brought up specifically Chuck Liddell. They're
I didn't say they knew what they were talking about.
or not, sorry. They didn't even know what they were talking about, but they tried to show their brass, because I've
By
had this
saying Chuck
happen
Liddell.
by saying, like, do you know of somebody named Chuck Liddell? I'm like, yeah, so does my grandma. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here. I'm telling you about tactics, and you're talking about, oh, do you know Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell? I was just telling you about some neon footwork, homie.
Yeah, I knew Chuck Liddell before I watched UFC. Like, there is a certain few fighters that I did know who they were, but it's not because I care. They were just kind of... And
They were probably from that era.
Yeah, and even like the Tito Ortiz, I would have never known who Tito Ortiz was, but I knew who Jenna Jameson was. You know, it's like that kind of thing. It's
Right.
like some of it bled over, but I think there are some UFC dudes that, like the Mike Perrys and the Luke Rockholds, that I know some house frows that would get down on that. If there was that kind of show.
Yeah,
they would
agreed.
be into it. They would be like, I didn't even know this was in here. I thought it was all a bunch of Chuck Liddells. I didn't even know this was an option. And then they could also, I think what people would be like, show a cutesy, few pictures of Amanda Nunes, build her up that way for people that don't know it at all. Just show her hanging out at home with Nina, show that whole life. And then the second half of the show them fighting, where it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea these two women playing with their dogs in the park were murderers. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
There's ways still to make the sport still grow, and I think there's intriguing backstories. I mean, all the fighters. Yeah,
Every
it's
single
so
person.
good. I almost think there should be a show that just highlights one fighter at a time and really gets in deep. In deep with Lesbo and the Bean.
We'll go interview you if you need to.
No, I have this dream I'm visioning, and I don't care if someone might steal it from me, but then I'll just go to it. I have this dream that our calling one day will be the LaTB, Lesbo and the Bean cruise, where it's almost like a Comic-Con, but it's just UFC fighters on a cruise boat for a week geeking out about UFC.
Fans or actual fighters?
Both.
Both.
Like, you have to have the actual fighters there for the fans.
They are fighters. And you lock up a bunch of gorillas in a cage together, what's going to happen? Or on a boat,
Well, you
what's
don't
going to happen?
do a whole ton. It's the same as, like, I don't know if you've ever even heard, they have, like, 80s ladies cruises that go out of Florida, and they'll do, like, Pat Benatar.
This is where we get in deep, because we do the 80s, ladies 80s.
Yeah.
with the fight because you need a supply.
No,
you need supply and
but
demand.
No, but I think that if you do
gotta
the
bring the
fights, you gotta have something.
Way to sell it to the fighters.
I think the way you sell it to your ladies is by saying, "Honey, do you want to go on a cruise?" And they're like, "Oh my God, you're amazing, sure." And you're like, "What are the chances? This is the cruise we picked." You don't even tell her it's UFC cruise, so you're walking up and there's a big banner on the side of the boat. I just think it's a good idea. Like, they have Comic-Cons for everything now. You can go to a Pony Con.
That's where Reebok and UFC has limited to the fight.
There's so many fighters now. There's so many fighters now that are, and they can go make appearances anywhere. They're allowed to make public appearances.
True.
They might just have to wear Reebok bathing suits when they're on the boat.
Onesies.
Yeah, but I think that would be so odd. And a band would also be super cool. You have a band included, and haven't you ever seen those where they have like shtick cruises that go out of place? They have the New Kids on the Block cruise.
I can't say that I have, but I'm a new local Floridian.
Oh yeah,
so still learning.
Floridians are cruising motherfuckers.
It's true. They get down on them cruises.
What else is going on?
We've been supporting your boy Coco, who won an Oscar. I mean Coco Diaz, who should have won an Oscar for that joke because it was tremendous. It was tremendous. Like, now Joe and B-Shop have been saying, "Oh, this and that."
Wait, what was the joke?
The joke was, I bet who you know it better.
Dern.
Mackenzie Dern's.
She was in the ring, and pretty much Joey Diaz said something like... tweeted out, "I can't wait or I wish I could smell her asshole after she gets done with this fight." Something to that extent.
I bet it smells tremendous.
I bet it smells tremendous. There was no... Magalhães, what's the fighter's name? Magalhães? Yeah, he tweeted, "I bet it smells tremendous. I would lick it," or something. It was he took it over the next line.
Because of course, it's the internet.
Nonetheless, if you don't know Joey Coco Diaz, you don't get it, but fuck off. I'm so tired of this, like, for sport we're going to be offended. We have nothing else to do, so we're going to exercise how offended we are about everything. And we're offended for people who aren't actually offended. You ask the actual person, "Are you offended by this?" "No, it made me laugh," and we're offended for them. Right. We can't be offended unless the person themselves is offended.
It's sort of a backhanded compliment, and some people take it better than others, but I totally agree.
It's like drinking someone's bathwater. Don't you feel like it's of the same vein? Like, girl,
awkward.
I would drink your bathwater.
Mackenzie didn't have to say anything, but now people have blown it up to such a next level thing that now she's going to be questioned by interviews, and now it's going to be more awkward than it ever could have been, where a comedian just said funny shit and people moved on. People just were like, "Oh, that was funny."
We need more funny shit in the world, everyone.
Agreed.
And Joey, if you haven't seen his stand-up comedy, he's a slayer. And if you're a UFC fan, he will be on March 13th on Joe Rogan Experience with Yoel Romero. And so any of the language barrier, Uncle Joey is also Cuban, so he'll pick it up. So I think there's going to be a lot of moments of, like, Yoel not getting something that Joe Rogan says, Coco explaining it with all the Cuban flair, and then Yoel getting loud AF. And Joe's going to have those earphones on, so he's going to be doing this the whole time. This is what I picture. "Yoel, can you get a little farther away from that mic? Joey, will you speak into the mic? Joey, will you speak into the mic?"
For me, prediction, Joey Diaz is going to be so fucking high because he gets smashed before those things. But this is always what happens with Joey Diaz interviews. Joey, can you back up? Like, he gets close enough, but then you can hear
everything
him
going
breathing.
on.
Yeah, everything in his lungs coming up. And he's 3 sheets to the wind on that next Chiba Chew 4 layers in, just asking fucking Yoel about Santa Maria and fucking all this crazy shit.
Yeah, that is true. Elephants don't smoke marijuana, but if they did, Uncle Joey does that amount. Like, he does the amount of marijuana that would kill an elephant. And he just makes it through. But I do, if you ever watch his podcast, super funny. He has Lee Sayette, I think is the guy's name, that is his co-host on there. And he doesn't tell Lee what the milligrams are of things. He just feeds him things. And you see this frigging... Well, he knows it, Joey's going to do something to him. He already knows it going in.
That's fun.
And you see Lee... He looks like he is like the most old school Mongolian. He is so high, and he's this Jewish guy, and he's like Yeah, and he still has to work all the boards, all the sound, all the other, and he gets by, and every once in a while he'll ask a question to the guest in his eye, and the guest will look at him in fear sometimes and be like, dude, are your eyes open?
Are you okay?
It's so great, you guys. So check out Uncle Joey. He didn't mean any harm to Mackenzie Dern. He's not a dirty, creepy dude. He's not the type of dude even in a comedy. There's been no Me Too's yet about Joey Diaz.
I would say he's a dirty, creepy dude.
He isn't. Even all the girls in the club, they say he says stuff like Whitney Cummings, all
but
the
he's
feminists.
A stand-up guy.
They say he's a super stand-up guy.
Yeah, I agree.
And he sometimes says stuff that you might normally not let people get away with, but because he's
a comedian.
Well, and you don't feel threatened at him by all, and he's not
right.
handsy, so it becomes funny. Yeah, so I think that's really important when you're saying lewd stuff. You also can't be handsy. You can't be like a guy that actually gropes girls and says nasty stuff. How about just don't grope girls?
I was about to say, so I can grope girls?
Some girls you can grope. Some girls.
I don't think that's good advice, especially this day and age.
It just has to be consensual. But some girls love to be groped. You just have to make it consensual.
So you gotta let them know first. You gotta let them know.
I'm gonna touch that titty, girl. You okay if I touch that titty?
Let me see your ID. Have her holding her ID
next to her, and you take a picture
while you're doing it.
And you put your hand on her titty.
Yep, just like that.
With her ID.
Just like that, open palm, just touching with the end of your fingertips.
And they can see that it's your hand, right? Your signature on your hand, so everyone knows what's about to happen is consensual.
That sounds foolproof.
Yeah.
Foolproof. That's gonna work. So
they'll be like, this strange guy just came up to me on the street with his hand out and a signature on it. He said he heard it from some podcast.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. Probably just gentlemen. So, any other UFC stuff? There's been a couple fights broken, but I want to let you. I feel like I took over the last couple little things we went over in this last one.
There is actually grumblings. I don't think there's any truth to it yet, but I do think Ben Askren has a foothold in getting into the UFC.
GSP has been talking about Ben Askren and how he wouldn't ever fight Ben Askren because that's too way hard of a fight, and Ben Askren doesn't have a name. That's 100% truth.
Yeah.
It's 100% truth. That's why GSP came out and fought Bisping, because the name, the title, it was a winnable fight. GSP doesn't take sucker fights. They got too good of a game plan.
Rockhold. That looks like it's getting more solidified.
Ooh, I just want Bisping to step away and just be an analyst, sir.
I don't mind him having one more fight, and I don't care if it's in London. Oh, I think it's supposed to be at 205.
There's talk at light heavyweight, 205 pounds is what I mean.
That's really the only fight I want to see him do would be Luke Rockhold 3.
Yeah, they're 1-1. It's easy to see.
And I actually am intrigued by it, where I couldn't tell you right off my head who I think would win, and that makes the fight intriguing to me, which usually in a third round you have an idea of, like, I say all day this person wins.
I really recommend watching Bisping's UFC piece where it's called Destiny. I just watched it. It's a 45-minute piece. They did really well. It's like the 360 boxing kind of a situation. But in that Rockhold knockout, the last one that they had, their second fight, Bisping, all he practiced was that left hook the whole time. He talked about it before camp and after in this Destiny video. But here at LaTB, we're picking up on some shit because we said, if Bisping sees that left hook, Yoel Romero sees that left hook and guess exactly the punch that's putting him down. Though, what I'm saying and have been saying with Rockhold, it's that weight cut's been too hard. 205 might rejuvenate his chin dramatically.
I hope so. I actually really hope we get to see him up there. All these fighters that we're seeing these weak chins with, I just am like, just move up. Yep. Except Yancey, I want him to go back to 155.
Oh, I don't know if he can make it.
His body looks not cut to me.
But he's doesn't have the best chin. But especially at 155, he doesn't have the best chin. At 155, jabs were sitting him on his ass.
But I even think Cyborg now, she's taking fights on short notice, making weight. I really do think the UFC nutritionists and having that be a super important part of your camp, which I do think a lot of fighters are implementing. Maybe Yancey needs to do something like that and live his life actually as a smaller person, like it looks like Cyborg's doing. Which, talking about Cyborg, the whole Amanda Nunes, them dropping the Amanda Nunes fight with Rocky Pennington to fight Cyborg is kind of pissing me off a little bit. It doesn't build Cyborg's legacy at all. And I think it puts her in danger. And we can go into that in a minute. But everyone that's saying, oh, that's not fair. Amanda Nunes, another 135er that Cyborg's taken down. I've said it on this show tons of times. Amanda Nunes isn't a 135er anymore. She can barely make that weight. Barely. I believe that her and Cyborg probably walk around at 175 apiece.
Woo! No way. That's huge.
No, it's not that big.
Really?
175 is not that big.
I'm 175 pounds.
Yeah, it's not that big. Those women are carrying muscle like you're carrying.
Jeez.
They're not carrying... I'm walking around at 168. So what? 6 more? But I have no muscle. So imagine if I am cut, I'm going to be looking... My body looks more like yours. But these women, like Cyborg, we've even said she's walked around in the past at 190, 180. Amanda Nunes... you can look really good as a woman.
Yeah.
Gabby Reese weighed almost 200 pounds at one point. She was a model. She's just 6 foot tall. And these women aren't shorties. Like, Amanda Nunes is probably 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah, true.
And so I feel like, and she wears those boots, like lifts, some sort of heel. And so it makes her look even taller. So it doesn't, I think with muscle, ladies are, like, I think healthy looking women, you'd be surprised. Like, I think Ronda Rousey in the WWE right now is probably walking around at 150. And she looks good to me. She looks like a healthy weight. She doesn't look chubby at all. I'm interested to see what Ronda Rousey's wrestling clothes are going to look like. Because we only see her in the jeans. And I haven't been watching WWE at all.
I was about to say, you bring it up.
But I am watching Ronda Rousey. I do watch her clips. Like when
they're on YouTube, you don't watch the actual shows.
No.
Or, Twitter, when they're gift up
No,
and
if
stuff.
it comes up on my thing, like, you might be interested in Ronda Rousey body slamming Stephanie McMahon, I'm like, maybe I am interested in that.
Apparently I am. Apparently I am.
Maybe you do know me too well, YouTube.
So,
how do you...
there's Ronda with Dunskies. It's, I mean, we know it's what it is, with the Kurt Angle, don't really care. UFC is so much fun for me that I don't need it. What storyline do you want? Real life storylines that are like people coming out of nowhere, up and coming fighters, cocaine, car crashes.
That's just John Bon Jones. Let's talk about everyone else. Everything you said, it was all John Bon Jones.
John Bon Jones last year. So we have that in the UFC. You just got to look a little bit more, and there's up and coming prospects that are gonna bring the heat.
On Fighter and the Kid, they cracked me up actually yesterday, and they were talking about there's really because they're a lot of podcasts I listen to, a lot of diehards. It's 50-50 about people wanting to see the Amanda Nunes fight, but everybody does understand that Cyborg fighting Amanda Nunes does not solidify her legacy. The fighters get it. And so they were like, really? Brennan said to him, the next fight's Cyborg versus CM Punk. And he's like, you have to question in your head who's going to win that fight.
There's no question. There's no question.
That's what he said too.
There's
no question. It's Cyborg all day.
All day.
All day.
Easy.
And
Easy.
what people think is like, well, she has to get punched by a man. Like, she's probably been punched by a man. She only trains with men.
I guarantee you she's been punched by a man.
And probably men that are MMA fighters.
Where she adopted her name, Cyborg, Christiana Cyborg, was from Cyborg, who got his head crushed in by MVP. They were married at a point in time. Tito Ortiz has a very specific story saying, first time I met Cyborg, walked into a gym, she was sparring with her husband Cyborg, who was a pro at the time and scary, big striker, and he kicks her like he would kick anyone else in the side of her head. She eats the kick, but then walks off the mat, eats the shot, walks off the mat, cries, not because she was hurt, but because he threw a fucking head kick while they were just practicing, came back in, started fighting him, and fought her like a man, like put a pace on, and then they went home together. Like, Cyborg is the truth. Just saying.
That's kind of what I feel like happened in this fight with Kutsikaya, is that at first it started where she was like in there doing her thing, and somewhere Kutsikaya pissed her off. And then we saw like a different Cyborg. But then the other thing, people are saying there's huge holes in Cyborg's game with those 2 takedowns, and that Amanda Nunes can exploit those holes if anyone can in the 135 division.
Everybody has holes. Everybody. It's just how you look at it, and the more fights you have, the easier it is to find your holes.
Okay, real MMA man fighters. Do you think Cyborg could legitimately be any 135ers?
UFC pro 135ers?
Because
That's different. That's a different game. That's a different game.
That's what he said. It cracked me up. I love you, Joey Benavidez. But if Cyborg lands one clean shot, you going night-night. It cracked me up. Like, out of everyone in the division, he saw Joey Benavidez as like...
That's harsh.
Like, she might got your number, Joey B.
I would say the chinnier guys would be the only guy. Yeah, it's a different beast.
Because she couldn't step up to the Dillashaw levels.
No,
Hell
I don't
no.
think so. I don't think so
Hell no.
either. I don't think so either.
And Demetrius Johnson.
That's a hell of a fun fight, though. All those are, I'm down. Let me see that.
So anyways,
Let me
I
see
think the
that.
truth is that really we just want to see Cyborg. If it's not Megan Anderson at 145, let's give her some real competition, and I think she's down for it. Let's create a new battle of the sexes. And I think she's down. All this pro-woman stuff, I think it could be a super watch fight. Girls would get behind it like, what? This lady's going to fight a dude? People would be talking about it that never even talked about fighting.
Or we can go Habib style and have her fucking wrestle a bear.
People have said Habib.
Or
I want to see Cyborg Habib.
You know who wins that fight. You know who wins that fight.
But I just think all of it's... I think that's such a crazy amount of respect.
Agreed.
And-
but Ronda was going to knock out Mayweather. Remember that? Ronda was going to knock him out. So it's not unheard of.
Yeah, but people have been talking about... Yeah, that is crazy.
But people gave real odds to that bullshit.
But here's some for real. Ronda and Floyd inside the octagon for 3 minutes. Who wins that fight?
MMA rules?
MMA rules.
I think Floyd Mayweather could use the footwork and stay out of everything.
I think she could definitely get him, but this is what I know about Ronda now. She can't take that first punch to get in now.
Yeah, and he can land that first punch.
And he can land a big, huge first punch that's just harder than probably Amanda Nunes.
He ain't worried about hitting women.
No, he don't even care.
He don't give a shit. He's
but
like, you're $50 million?
Cyborg versus Floyd Mayweather inside the octagon.
Here, Floyd Mayweather's like, so you're going to pay me $1 million to hit a woman in the face? Last time I had to pay $100 million.
Yeah, right? He's like, oh, this sounds like a good plan.
Let's do this. Ronda, Cyborg, whoever. Yeah, I'd see Cyborg versus Floyd Mayweather all day.
And then the other option for Cyborg that I heard was kind of funny, a tag team match where she's alone.
I did hear that. That's funny. That's a good one.
And anyone who's hating still on Cyborg with any of the issues she had about PEDs in her past, she's been tested as much as all the other athletes, and unless you want to start giving that shit to Holly Holm and Misha Tate and Kat Zingano, leave it off Cyborg. Leave it off Cyborg.
Though, and I did hear this brought up that there's retention. The bone density is forever. The muscles develop.
I believe that. I definitely. But we also talk about it, and I might get hate for this. You crazy as hell if you think Holly Holmes has not put something in her body. You crazy as hell.
With that thoroughbred ass, though, girl.
And that Cro-Magnon brow. You crazy as hell.
John Winklejohn fighters have
You know who else? I was just looking at somebody else just recently where you can look at them when they first started fighting to now. And it was a woman and some dudes. I was just looking at old pictures of young fighters to now. And you see them all. And I do think getting punched in the face does make things thicker. So I do think that happens. But we talk about it for Hollywood. We talk about it for every other sport. I hate to be Nate Diaz, but I do think everybody's on motherfucking steroids. Everybody
is on steroids.
And I do think part of it, the same way you're allowed to do like marijuana or whatever at a competition, I do think there are PEDs you should be allowed to do at a competition to help your healing. But that's an argument for another day. But I think there's benefits to it. Like, I was once totally anti it, and now the more I'm educated on it, I do think there's benefits for these fighters.
It's never going to stop. Just because they're coming out with new tests just means that there's somebody else working to get around it. It's the way of the world. So it's going to be a lifelong thing. It's just like this war on terror. There ain't no end. There ain't no end.
There's no such thing. It's like a war on drugs.
Exactly. There's no such thing. It's just a way to pump money.
We just put a blanket enemy statement, and then we can keep pumping money toward it.
Exactly. So with steroids, interesting thing that I did feel like we were bringing up a little bit, other people have also brought it up since the fact, was Hernandez, who just beat Beneil Dariush, was fucking jacked up to the gills. He'd never been tested one time. He was a short notice replacement, about 2 weeks to 10 days, somewhere around there. But he was never tested. If he was tested, I'm just saying that dude was jacked up. Young man, but he had level of muscle that was like, wow, bodybuilder style-esque muscle.
Curtis Blades, Alistair Overeem, speaking of juice. One
If
score,
the
one
juice is
juice.
flowing,
But
yeah.
this is the other thing too. It's like, okay, same to be said. Yeah, it creates muscle density, all that stuff. Let's talk about Alistair Overeem. Let's talk about Belfort. Let's talk about all these guys let's talk about Jose Aldo. Let's talk about
Who
life
else just
after
popped?
this.
Someone else just popped for Sustanodone or something. Oh, Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah, Canelo Alvarez.
Against Triple G for the horse meat.
Yeah. Canelo
Or
Alvarez.
not
So it's like,
horse meat.
all these dudes too, some of them, look at Cyborg's career after, they're all testing clean now. None of these guys are standing up to what she's standing up to. So,
Right.
Right. I wonder if there's ever been studies of steroids ruin your chin.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet. I've looked up some into it, and yeah, the most shocking thing was the spiking of the hip joints. Never would have thought that. So any of them hip surgeries for young men, Jake Matthews. Just saying, get ready to lose some money after that guy pops. So with other.
So you're going to get in trouble for Jake Matthews, and I'm going to get the whole Holly Home Preacher's Daughter army after me.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see other fights.
You got JW attached to your camp name. I'm just putting in my monocle.
I was thinking about it. We've kind of let the gym off the hook with this because our fighters haven't popped as much. But remember when TJ and Garbrandt were talking about who brought the steroids in and you're the one who got the team all on them? Just saying. Alpha Male is a sleeky. I know I'm throwing shade out of nowhere at Alpha Male, but I was the other day like, ooh, apparently a lot of guys there were doing it. But speaking of steroids, somebody who, for some reason whatsoever, has not popped, and we're just waiting for it. We have a fight between Uriah Hall versus Borrachina himself, and I don't know how fucking Borrachina isn't popping. That dude is huge.
I just think he has a perfect person to talk about with the Joe Band and the Rockhold and all these people. Who is better looking than Borrachina?
That juice is flowing. That Brazilian juice is flowing.
He is good looking. Companies out there, you can get him for cheap right now. He will sell your products.
Uriah Hall. It's a very interesting fight. Uriah Hall isn't taking any easy fights, win or lose. He's coming in against other strikers. I don't know if he doesn't like the grappling sense, but chin's been tested a little bit, and Borrachina blasts you in that first round.
Is that the heavyweight division or 205?
No, I think that's 185.
185?
Yeah. I'm positive.
I believe you.
Middleweights.
Borrachina is so big. I thought he was like a heavyweight or a 205er.
He's shredded too. So, any other topics we want to hit on in this? What are we going to call?
Touch it.
Oh,
How are you feeling about Khabib versus Ferguson? Am I the only person in America that feels confident about Tony? Because that's how I feel. I don't think everyone I talk to, they all feel like Khabib's going to walk through this, and I am El Kukui right now all day.
I have my hesitations on both fighters, more so one than the other.
What are your hesitations?
Good old wrestling. It's the
you
wrestling.
You feel good about Khabib's chin?
That's iffy.
I don't think it's ever been tested. And anytime we have seen
a little bit iffy. Johnson hit him a little bit. He gets hurt a lot. So do a lot of other fighters. But that's where he has a great game plan of being able to get you to where he wants to get you.
Do you think he's ever dealt with somebody like Tony on the ground?
No. But that's what also makes it so fun and why it's such a coin flip for me.
Don't you think it's the ultimate test of BJJ versus wrestling? Don't you think this is the perfect, almost like two specialty?
Not necessarily BJJ, because specifically 10th Planet has such a unique system, and Tony Ferguson mixes it so well with, because he does all sorts of crazy rolls that BJJ doesn't show you. Like, he does a lot of Granbies in wrestling as well, but I feel like it's...
But he's a black belt at 10th Planet, isn't he?
Yeah. But he also, he's more of the MMA fighter, where Khabib is a specialist.
Yeah.
Striking is guard shit. So that's
Tony
where it's so...
Specialist.
Right. Tony is a specialist in MMA.
He's specialist off his back, but not necessarily in...
I would say Tony's a specialist like I'm saying, in the evolved stance where he's mixing everything together and brings out all these angles, where Khabib is a specialist in just wrestling and not even the in-between so much, but good ground and pound, either way. So it's whether that one specific style can just stifle Tony to stay into one position. And it's all going to be about wrist control. And the breakdowns are going to come out crazy about wrist control.
How do you feel about Khabib in a 5-round fight? Has he ever been in one before?
Not that I can think of, but he's had a few decisions now, and now at the top level. Edson Barbosa is no walk in the park. No walk in the park, and he looked like he had a good gas tank easily all 3 rounds. Didn't really look like he slowed down, and that's a grinding pace. You could see Barbosa being like, fuck, how was he standing just like, damn it.
3 rounds, though, significantly different than 5, because they call them the championship rounds for a reason. And Khabib was never put in any detrimental spot in that whole entire fight.
Yep.
And he didn't finish. Did he finish? Was it a decision?
It was a decision.
Yeah, I don't know. Is Khabib, even with all that control, a finisher?
I don't want to overanalyze this because we're hanging on by a thread right now. We're hanging on by the wire.
No, I'm trying to get excited.
I don't want to put too much.
It.
I'm so excited that I don't want to.
Okay, let's not talk about that
anymore.
Exactly. How are you feeling about? And we'll have time to break these down. And it could totally change because we're gonna have press conferences in between time.
Sure, of course.
So how are you feeling about JJ Rose right now?
No 2 fights are the same. And I really don't like JJ's excuses that she's been having. She hasn't just said, all right, I'm gonna get back to it.
The Boogie Woman is coming for you, Rose! Sorry.
It scared the shit out of me.
I know, it scared a sneeze right out of me.
Right out of me. The Boogie Woman. I thought she was right next to me for a split second. Woo! So, other than that, I can't think of too many other things. What are we going to call this episode?
You got Rose or JJ right now?
Right now, I want to say Rose just because I don't like what JJ said.
Thug Life, baby, right here.
Get the shirts.
Thug Life.
There'll be a link on
Twitter, somewhere on Twitter.
Exactly.
I don't know what we can call this time. A little bit of
this, a little bit of that.
Did you ever have any canned like a ravioli, like a Chef Boyardee, any canned crap?
Hell
what
no,
about
I had
ramen?
Cheese and beans.
You ramen?
Hell yeah, we got some ramen.
You got some ramen?
Yep.
Ramen was my favorite. What was your favorite ramen?
Chicken or the beef.
I like beef.
The other
beef ramen.
I thought you were gonna go with like the canned fruit, the mixed up canned fruit.
Hell no, I don't want
I know,
pears.
those grapes
hate
were
pears.
gross.
The whole thing was pears and grapes.
All I
you
wanted was
got
a cherry.
one tiny piece of peach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want that mixed fruit. Mixed nuts. I don't know. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But it'll come out. It's a little bit of a gossip show, a little bit of drama. Follow us everywhere at Lesbo and the Bean. Make sure you like and subscribe. We love you. Thank you. Come again Sunday. We'll see you Sunday.
Lesbo and the Bean!
Bye-bye.